Hello, we are Group 4 from the Communications Research 386 class at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. And our mission is to help organizations and businesses stay competitive by providing relevant professional insight based on valuable data and best practices.
All right, so the Acadiana Center for Arts, otherwise known as the ACA, is a nonprofit organization founded in 1975. The ACA focuses on supporting local artists all throughout the Acadiana region, and it also organizes events like art exhibits, festivals, performances, and public art shows. They serve over 300,000 people annually throughout the Acadiana region and provide fair compensation for 2,700 artists within the community. The ACA asked our class in this project to help find a way for them to gain more memberships. And upon this request, we looked into what we thought would be some of the best ways to do that. And given the current situation throughout the country and the world, we thought social media would be a very powerful tool that could attract thousands of followers if the ACA used it correctly. And especially now, while Americans are required to stay inside in response to the current health crisis, people are spending more time online than ever before. And through content analysis, secondary research, and survey data, we've discovered what might be the best way for the ACA to gain more attention, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic having a major impact on day-to-day life.
The ACA is classified as a nonprofit organization that promotes art and culture in the Acadiana area. In addition, the ACA could also be considered an art service organization thanks to the many grants they offer in support of artists and schools. These organizations are defined as a nonprofit organization that furthers the interests of artists, creators, arts organizations, and elements of the arts community. The organization's activities can include policy development, advocacy, provision of professional services, and production of collective projects. The artist support that the ACA provides makes them stand above all other art venues, especially now in light of the COVID-19. Due to the outbreak of COVID-19, many organizations find themselves limited in the ways that they can interact with their audiences. Due to the current stay-at-home order, many businesses and organizations must turn to social media as the solution to this problem. Content strategist Catherine Kim stated, brands need to go where their customers are, and these days, that's 100% online. This issue is a major threat, especially to the artist industry, as the list of canceled live performances continues to grow. Unfortunately, the future is unclear as to when everything will go back to normal. There is evidence supporting the idea that the COVID-19 policies will last longer throughout the year than originally expected. In response, organizations should prepare for the worst and adopt methods that allow them to continue engaging their audiences in a meaningful way. It's more important now than ever before for brands to listen, respond, and communicate effectively with their customers, and social media is where brands are able to do just that. So, about our local competitors, to be considered a local competitor, the organizations have to meet the following criteria. They must be a nonprofit or arts organization, provide similar services to the ACA, and are located within the 8 parishes the ACA serves. So we were able to find 2 comparable competitors. We have the Lafayette Art Association, which is very similar to the ACA, as it too holds the promotion of the arts and art education as its core tenets. The Lafayette Art Association has had to close its door until further notice due to the COVID-19 quarantine. But everything that they have posted on their social media has been art-related memes with nothing else meaningful regarding social outreach or the arts. The Hilliard Art Museum is another competitor we have. It has also had to close its doors thanks to the coronavirus. Their Facebook has been more active than the Lafayette Art Association, however, posting honors to artists who have passed away some weeks ago, as well as posts about collections from artists that will be featured in their Hilliard from Home newsletter, which contains art for people to enjoy during their stay in the quarantine. Now, the Hilliard Art Museum is a good example of an arts organization that's using this stay-at-home order as a benefit and an opportunity for arts organizations to engage their publics more directly and casually. The industry trends that I would like us to take note of. So periodic surveys by the National Endowment for the Arts suggest an overall decline in attendance at key cultural institutions and events as art museums, classical music performances, and theatrical presentations. This decline was about 6% in attendances of benchmark live, visual, or performing arts events. Specifically, it went from 39% in 2002 down to 33% in 2012. Now, these benchmark events are defined as events that have been tracked since 1982. It's not because they are any different in their significance or value to the arts. They are also specified to be jazz, classical music, opera, musical and non-musical plays, ballet, visits to art museums or galleries, and excludes elementary and high school performances and galleries. So the NEA also acknowledged that other surveys conducted in 2012 showed slightly over half of all Americans attended a live performance or art exhibit. So 51% attended a live or visual performing arts event. So they considered both benchmark and not in benchmark activities in that survey. And the most interesting and important finding was that 71% of Americans used electronic media to watch or listen to art. This is amazing news considering that attending live performances and visual arts exhibits is currently not an option. In response to this decline, the Wallace Foundation started a new initiative called Building Audiences for the Arts. A little bit about the Wallace Foundation. It's a national philanthropy that focuses on improving the standards of education for disadvantaged children and promoting the importance for art for people of all ages to enjoy. Currently, the Wallace Foundation has 7 separate initiatives, 2 of those being focused on arts education and building audiences for the arts. Building audiences for the arts is our main focus here, of course. So the initiative began in 2015 with the goal to create practical insights in how arts organizations can grow their audience base. To achieve their goal, they teamed up with 26 performing arts organizations to conduct their own individual audience building projects and measure the results of these efforts to generate useful information for other arts organizations across the nation. At their The Building Arts Organizations That Build Audiences conference, they actually identified 3 essential for audience participation building, and their main point was understanding audiences and figuring out strategies to meet them where they are. So 8 of the 26 performing arts organizations tried zip code marketing, which is marketing to a specific zip code in their area, but majority of them found no success in these efforts. One organization specifically, the ODC, is located in San Francisco's Mission District. So the ODC is a contemporary dance company. Their data actually showed that their zip code they were located in contained one of the highest percentages of art patrons in the state. So the ODC proceeded to create several promotions to the locals, trying to convince people to attend performances or classes at a discount. While they were able to attract more dance students, the overall results fell short of expectations. They found that despite being located in what should be a goldmine for patrons, if the local audience is not already interested in contemporary dance, it was unlikely you could get them to come and watch contemporary dance. So Nancy Bertosa, ODC's Director of Communications, said, "Where people live is really incidental to how they choose art. In some ways, the more avid a fan you are, the less crucial it is that you live nearby." What this means is if, say, the surrounding area of the ACA, their audience, we want more Zydeco music, then the ACA should consider that and try to incorporate that into their programming in future events. So the Wallace Foundation's conference concluded, zip code strategies might work, but only if done slowly and carefully and by gaining a deep understanding of a neighborhood's needs and how those needs intersect with the work of an arts organization. Now, the final publication we looked at, and it's personally my favorite, is by the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance when they announced their 2020 goal of doubling the region's cultural participation. They published a research report sponsored by the Wallace Foundation called Research into Action, Pathways to New Opportunities. Amongst their 10 key findings, they noted the explosion of social media is not an isolated event or even a new phenomenon. It is just the current technology-enabled manifestation of our long-standing human need to connect with one another. They also identified that the top reason people attended a cultural event was attributed to their interest in a particular exhibition or performance, and the second highest being their interest in the genre, period, or style of the event. In conclusion, this report says that the product or service being offered is the primary reason to participate.
After meeting our client in the ACA, we were left with limited capabilities when it came to acquire data through our secondary research. Once we were able to acquire suitable data through our secondary research, we decided to focus on what can be done while facing the limitations of the COVID-19 pandemic. From this, we mainly aim to research in the ACA's response to the changes that came with the ordered quarantine, while also looking back in some areas that may have needed improvement prior to the pandemic. In our research, we found that compared to local, the ACA has had the best response to the current situation, but still can do more. With ACA Media, we hope to improve the interaction between official media pages under the ACA with their members and community. Collectively, we have created 3 research questions. One was, what improvements can be made to increase the number of ACA events being held with current restrictions, as well as increasing attendees and new members? And also, what its competition is doing? And lastly, what can the ACA do to increase social media presence, and where should it focus its efforts?
So in order to answer these questions that we've posed to ourselves, we've taken up upon ourselves to go under 2 separate research methods. One is a content analysis, and the other is survey data. Firstly, we'll begin with the content analysis. For the content analysis, we began with the ACA Facebook and Instagram page, as they were the most active and most frequented pages the ACA possesses. We decided to begin our research with any post beginning March 1st and then to the current date. Primarily because with the COVID-19 outbreak being as prominent as it is, that was the beginning when COVID started kind of gaining a lot of traction in the public eye, and then legislation started coming down from local and federal governments. So taking that, we then isolated each post into a variety of different categories, whether they were artist-related, COVID-19 related, performance-related, or member-related. From this, we gathered the theme of what each page was focused on and what the ACA's message was to the local area of both volunteers, followers on their pages, as well as members. Additionally, we also use survey data provided by Dr. Madison to gauge public opinion of the ACA among communication students. At this point, we feel that it's important to make a note that given the circumstance that we find ourselves in with the local health crisis, that doing this research was more difficult than it may have originally intended to be. Firstly, we were unable to perform any additional surveys, interviews, or anything along those lines, given the stay-at-home order that we were observing. As well, while the survey data we did have was useful and did help us point in the right direction of where to focus our efforts, it was distributed to students who may have not taken the survey very seriously or were not the primary audience the ACA tends to cater to, especially when looking for memberships.
So our findings, we went through with 3 research questions that we were able to finally come up with the data that we had gathered. And if you recall, the first one was what improvements can be made to increase the number of ACA events being held with current restrictions, as well as increasing attendees and memberships. So after putting all of our data together and pulling everything, we decided and found that the best thing for them to do would be partnering with local artists for virtual live performances and online art exhibits. That's a potential opportunity to increase events. In an effort to incentivize membership, the ACA should consider making some of the more popular events exclusive to members, adding some incentive, more incentive to become a member of the ACA. And we also believe that the industry research shows that the main motivation factors, like the main motivating factors for event attendees, is the audience members' interest in the event. It is of the utmost importance for the ACA to consider who their audience is and what they enjoy when deciding their programming schedule. Moving into research question 2, what can the ACA learn from what its competition is doing? We were able to garner by looking at the competition, a few things can be gleaned. Firstly, the ACA is doing the most publicly to foster relationships with local artists, and the community in which it exists. Despite this, more can still be done. The Hilliard Museum is continuing to send out newsletters with photos of new art exhibits that can no longer be properly displayed with the traditional means, given the current circumstances. While the ACA continues to foster artist relationships, more can be done in the way of providing content to its supporters in the form of newsletters or online art shows. And research question 3, what can the ACA do to increase social media presence, and where should it focus its efforts most? So the ACA should focus on improving its methods of operating on all its current social media platforms. With the changes imposed by the stay-at-home orders put in place during the COVID-19 pandemic, prime times especially to post to your social media for maximum engagement have changed. So we'll start with the ACA's Facebook page. The activity on the ACA's Facebook page is decent. It could use more attention, whether that be news on events, updates for members in the organization, and polls. Really any kind of way to further the engagement of the community that is found there. And whenever a post is needing to be made, it should be made on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday from 10 to 11 a.m. That is the new prime time to post. As for Instagram, the activity on the ACA's Instagram page is pretty good, with frequent posts keeping members in the community on whole informed. Whenever a post is needing to be made on the Instagram, though, it should be made on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. and Tuesday at 2 p.m. as well. So Tuesday's got 2 prime spots to post on. Outside of that, Monday, Tuesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. are the go-to times. As for the ACA's LinkedIn, the activity on the ACA's LinkedIn page is decent. It could use more attention and engage more with the audience to garner more interest in potential members and even employees. So there's definitely some room for improvement there. But whenever improvement is being made, it needs to be noted that any important posts should be made on Wednesday at 3 p.m., Thursday at 9 to 10 a.m., and Friday from 11 a.m. to noon. Those are the new prime times to post. And finally, the ACA's Twitter. The activity on the ACA's Twitter page is very poor. At this point, it seems to have been abandoned. And the ACA has a major following on Twitter, and considering a good portion of its members and people active in the community use Twitter, this is a major tool that the ACA is not utilizing. It is already has members built up, and it already has a good basis of posts and interaction that is just completely being left on the wayside. So the ACA should resume making posts to Twitter as soon as possible, and should be making posts in all fashions to re-engage with a major audience that has been left without any updates. But whenever a post is needing to be made, it should be made on Friday from 7 to 9 a.m.
So that brings us to, what does all this information mean? What does this all accumulate towards? Well, in terms of that aspect, we have some recommendations to make. Firstly, we believe that social media should become a much bigger focus of the ACA. The work done on Facebook and Instagram is good. There's strides being made there and progress. However, we feel that more energy should be thrown towards the Twitter page. Its abandonedness and its large following, it doesn't add up as to why it's not getting as much effort as the other 2 platforms. We also propose that aligned postings across all social media platforms be done. So that way, no matter what platform you're following the ACA on, there is information being seen at the same time across all people. Furthermore, we think that the ACA should hold regular polls, both through email correspondence with the newsletter to members, as well as on Facebook. This can help to gauge exactly who the people are that the ACA is dealing with, whether that be what kind of people the memberships are going out towards, as well as who is following social media, what are they interested in, are they potential members that haven't been swayed yet, things in this nature. Finally, as kind of the big recommendation, we think that the ACA should take more of an advantage of the stay-at-home order that everyone is currently abiding by. As anybody who is well-informed on COVID-19, people in the older demographic are more at risk from resulting in fatalities if they were to catch the disease. Also, as is kind of public knowledge, most of the members of the ACA tend to be older people. These people have money to spend as opposed to younger generations. With these two things being true, it's not a leap in logic to assume that a majority of ACA members will not be venturing out into the wild and going to large public gathering events until life returns back to fully normal or until the disease becomes a lot less of an issue. Looking at the competitors, we've kind of devised a plan to hopefully fix this issue. Firstly, we recommend that the ACA bring art to the homes through live stream performances on websites such as dougcast.com or hosted on the ACA's website itself. This allows the members to get something material for them as members. Previously, they were able to go to shows early, discounted tickets, so on and so forth, but as things are currently standing, they're not getting anything that they can physically look at and point to as this is where my money is going. I feel comfortable with this. Additionally, it's also going to act as good public face for everyone who is aware of it. The ACA has a series of very important tenets that they tend to live by in every decision that they make, one of which is that art is important and stands paramount in the face of anything and everything that comes at its way. This can help to push that core tenet further into the public eye. The ACA has done a great job of supporting artists during this time by giving grants and relief efforts to artists who have lost gigs or are not able to find employment during this period of time. And this live performance idea can further that means by giving them an opportunity to perform for an audience and create and do what they are passionate about, as well as get paid for it, even if they're not able to do it traditionally as we're used to. Lastly, these on performances can act as a spotlight for those who already support the ACA. As was discussed in the client meeting, it's no secret that a majority of the big spenders who support the ACA with monetary gain are not doing it for a love of the arts necessarily, but so that way they project a philanthropic image to those around them. As such, you can have small dedications before each show, their name appearing on screen or something similar and the like, that will act as an additional way to spotlight that person, not only to make them feel better and feel happy with their contribution as it's being displayed to the local community, but it's also acting as a show of appreciation to those who are giving as generously as these people seem to be.